It was something unlike anything the world had seen before, a pop culture sensation that not only took a generation by storm, but allowed them to take part in the adventure as well. Originally launching on the Game Boy in 1998, the Pokemon series soon grew to include a cartoon, trading cards, and every other type of merchandising deal you can imagine. As the franchise rapidly grew, fans began to make higher demands of the series. They wanted to play out these famous Pokemon battles the way that the cartoons depicted them, not held back by the primitive handhelds the games were designed on. And so, in 1999, Nintendo released Pokemon Stadium, ensuring that the Pokemon craze would never be the same. Now, the original Pokemon games, they're something special, and are actually the first real example of the social gaming craze that's sweeping the industry today. No, I don't mean to compare Pokemon to Farmville, but the games are a great example of connecting players in an era where it was hard to do so beyond split-screen multiplayer. The Pokemon games were deliberately designed to have their players interact with one another. The internet was still mostly restricted to PC gaming, and so connecting all had to be done in person through link cables. Pokemon had this brilliant slogan, "Gotta catch 'em all," a challenge to its millions of potential players. It was a journey that you were all on together, that you'd need to aid each other in to ever succeed, and the two versions of the game really drove this home. Some Pokemon would only be available in one version of the game, and some could actually only be evolved through being given to someone else. Trading was the only way you could ever hope to complete your collection. Furthermore, what's noteworthy is the battling aspect of the series. Once you had your perfect team lined up, you grew attached to them, proud of them. You wanted to show your Pokemon off to the world, to compete with others. The entire lore of the series was built around becoming the best Pokemon trainer there was, and the gameplay, well, it let you live this fantasy out. With such solid foundations, Nintendo and Game Freak had a huge hit on their hands. Sequels have followed the same general formula as the original Red and Blue, each handing out a new generation of Pokemon and expanding on the connectivity options available to players. But throughout it all of the main entries in the series have only been available on handhelds, and to many people, that's considered a problem. When Pokemon Stadium was finally released, people liked it, but also seemed disappointed that we didn't get a true 3D Pokemon adventure. Well, I'm here today to talk about how that might not necessarily be a bad thing. Let's say, for example, that instead of developing Pokemon Gold and Silver for the Game Boy Color, Game Freak instead made the sequels for the Nintendo 64. Well, I guess just make that sequel. With no internet or LAN capabilities, the N64 was isolated much like any home console was until the rise of Xbox Live, and without any way to trade Pokemon and keep some specific to each version, there's no point to producing two separate titles. Some may say that that was just a greedy business practice anyways, but I've always felt it adds to the uniqueness of the series, giving you that discussion and investigation about which version has the Pokemon you'd prefer, and how to compensate for the Pokemon you can't quite as easily get. So already this Pokemon Golver has lost some of its charm. Being unable to connect with its peers in any way, the N64 version would hinder many aspects that makes the Pokemon series so special. No trading, no special events you can attend to get legendary Pokemon, and no comparing collections with friends. I mean, sure, you still could have the core mechanics of getting gym badges and pursuing the Elite Four, but without any significant challenge to catching them all, or a way to show off to your peers, what's the point? The game would always just have been a shallower version of the handheld games. Luckily, there was one benefit to a home console Pokemon, and that was the thing that Nintendo decided to build the entire Pokemon Stadium game around: fully realized 3D battles. The Game Boys were only capable of producing non-moving sprites that occasionally jiggled the screen and made lines. Compared to that, the graphics of the N64 practically looked like the Sistine Chapel. Attacks were finely well animated, and the beauty of seeing all of your favorite collectible monsters just as they looked on TV made many a childhood dream come true. And the best part? All of these Pokemon were actually yours. Every copy of Pokemon Stadium came with a transfer pack, which allowed you to directly connect your copy of Pokemon Red or Blue and see your very own team come to life on your television. But a game has to offer more than just graphics, right? Thankfully, Pokemon Stadium is more than just a battle simulator. There are multiple tournaments to compete in, and even an abridged version of all the gym battles in Red and Blue. This ensures that even if someone buys the game without previously owning any of the handheld titles, there is still a sense of progression, even though you're technically just renting the Pokemon in this case. There are trophies to unlock, shiny Pokemon to face, and even some simple Mario Party-esque minigames to partake in, though admittedly they were a lot more entertaining when I was younger. Ever since that original release of Pokemon Stadium, times have changed quite a bit. Hundreds of new Pokemon have joined the series, featuring new types, new forms of evolution, and entire new worlds to explore. And with the technology available in modern consoles, perhaps a fleshed out Pokemon title you can enjoy at home is now a possibility. But there will always be a special place in our hearts for Pokemon Stadium, a game that took the creatures that we loved and let us enjoy them in a whole new way. Over a decade before Skylanders, Nintendo realized the appeal of taking a beloved toy and bringing it to life in your living room. Pokemon Stadium elevated the series beyond just a handheld sensation and ensured that we'll still be trying to catch 'em all for many years to come. And that, well, that's just really freaking clever. Wow, I got through an entire Pokemon-themed episode without going out of my way to troll all the Pokemon fans out there. Good job, Josh. Digimon was the better show!
Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Change into digital champions to save the digital world. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions.